A little bit about everything. But tonight we're going to take on a different approach. My name is Ed the Pagan. And tonight I'll be your host. Every day of the week we have different hosts, different people. Tomorrow we're going to talk about with Eric Hubert about the Corellian font. And I have a lot of interesting ideas for that. Wednesday we're going to have a very special guest I'm expecting, but I don't want to say anything until it happens. Thursday, Tarot Thursday. And I think this week we might have Phoenix joining us. So we'll have on Thursday, and Friday will be something really kind of fun and supernatural. I always love it all. Plus, we're going to be doing a lot of things. We have a lot of new shows coming on. Check it out and check out our ability to do so at Pagan World TV or pagan.world and join us there. Tonight, we're going to talk about something very important to me, and that is the idea of how far do we go in our faith. And hi, Samantha and Mary Meet. And that is the idea of how far do we go. So, dear, and congratulations on your seminary exemption. I think that's very good. All right. So let me go ahead and just right into this. We're talking tonight about oaths and promises that we make, and sort of the idea of what is a promise, oath, bloodbound oath, and all of it is, because it's been really kind of something that I've had to deal with recently about how far I would go and how where I'm at. And recently, there was put just yesterday. I think I put out a piece, or even no, it was this morning. Oh my gosh, time sometimes is quirky as we live in the quantum machine. But the idea behind it is that it was really kind of interesting in the idea that somebody said, I will take my breath all my life, and I will die a pagan. And I've said that I will die a pagan. If anyone ever at the end of my life, just like Christopher Hitchens or others that have done so, if you hear that I've transmitted on the edge of my life to paganism, from paganism, my family would do this. No, it's probably a lie, or they tortured me, or so out of my mind, because I plan to die this life is a pagan. Now, I want that to be decades from now, and you do too. I hope. I certainly hope none of you want to have me X off. But when I die, I will be known. I will pass into the world of at the pagan, and I hope that that which remember lives. So I have a legendary name and all of those concepts. But what does it mean? What does it mean to be in faith? Well, I believe I'm correct enough that I'm willing to live and die for my faith, my beliefs. And that means I won't let them take them away from me. I won't stop believing. There is a whole movement trying to change the way we look. They're trying to strip education. They're trying to strip knowledge away from them. They're trying to limit people's choices. They're trying to indoctrinate people. And who are they? Right now, it is the Republican Party and the Christian right nationalist groups that are out there doing this. And so at some point, they're going to, I might face a situation where, oh, we're going to arrest you for what? Paganism. I will be gladly arrested. Well, maybe not gladly. I would certainly protest. Well, no, I will not gladly go there. I will certainly not protest. I will scream at the top of my lungs and I will invoke my rights the best I can. Absolutely. But I will live this life. And that also means I will not accept your judgment of me. I do not live in a sin filled world. There's not a lot of sin around me. That's kind of a ridiculous statement. I am not sinful because sin is something else. And if I get bad behavior, I hope people will call me out, but I'm not sinful. So I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about all of these ideas that we have that, oh, you're going to die in hell. I mean, I had that when I was a child. Last Act of the Apocalypse is one of my pages where I mock this idea. But with me, it means that I will commit to acting in this way and making sure that others can act as well. So the question is, until my dying breath, I mean that quite literally. I hope that it happens until the moment that I will state these things. I will still talk to the public. It means I will not stop talking to the public. The second thing is that a very long time ago, oh, back in the early 90s, like right at the beginning of the 90s, I was trained as a Gardnerian. I've had a lot of magical practices. I was severely Christian as a child. I was severely Catholic as a child. Joined the Satanic cult when I was 15. That's a true story. We'll have to talk about that. Maybe people don't realize that I was a member of a Satanic cult at my high school that actually got turned into a mess. We'll have that conversation someday. Um, but it finally became a Corellian. I kind of sat down there and I made an oath to Lady Crystal and Lord Don and Lady Bitterwind and all of their family that was there, Becky and all of them, that I would help them, that I would swear to the family to help the tradition. And so there's a very much so I swore to the Carell family. People have gotten that kind of confused with the idea that I swore to the tradition. I did not. I may have grown with the tradition, but the tradition has been a factor of what we've created out of this pledge. Taking the tradition from being a very small group of people to several covens to a worldwide religion, the largest Wiccan religion in the world, creating this communication system. But that's the tradition, and we love the tradition, and everybody loves the family. But I didn't swear to the tradition. I swore to the family, and I continue to do so. So we have that. So why don't you tell me about yours? Come on, tell me about your oaths. What have you made you pledge? What would you go to the wall for? And so people have asked me, have I had guns pointed at me? Yes, I've had pagan guns pointed at me. I've had police guns pointed at me. I've had gang members point a gun at me. I can tell you, it's more than a handful of people at times I've had to face a gun, and I'm always really great feeling about that. I've always, whenever I've survived, I've had a good feeling about it. Um, yeah. So people are like, "What? You've had a gun?" Yes, I've had guns pointed at me. Um, Gene, what do you mean by my non-biological family? You swear. Oh, you swear by your non-biological family. That's a great thing, and that's important. And you have to learn to build relationships. The hard part of building long-term relationships, and you never know. Sometimes you can have a relationship. I've had a relationship that just recently ended. That was from 2006, and it was a really good relationship. So I thought. But just in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, out of the incidents that have happened, I've lost a number of friends in my non biological family. It's painful and I'll stand by it, but it can happen. And I did so by remaining in my oath. Believe it or not, in my oath. They wanted me to change the way that I was going to operate. They wanted me to walk away. And they wanted to, to do things. And like, no, I'm not going to. I can't because lifelong oaths are like that. What is a lifelong oath? A blood bond. So there's a lot of energy around me with Lord Don, about how we're going to work with him, how to help with him. At the end of the day, I stood up and began signing the legal documents. I began to really take everything. Mary, hey, Mary. So we started to take a real action. And so we filed paperwork and everything else. And I became much of his caregiver. And now we're planning to move him back to Danville. We're trying to make life easier for him while he's trying to retire. So that's really difficult. It's been hard. We're selling books, we're selling that. But I made an oath to the Crowley family that I would take care of him. So I'm going to return him back home to Danville, back to his family, because I made that pledge to the family. I want to see the family be restored. I want to see that area. I have him too. I mean, people say, so Mary mentioned, that's great. Hello, Diane. So there we go. But we will say this. Hi, Mary. People say that it's great to have him, but I've had him too. I mean, we've been really like brotherkin. We've been really our blood, pledged to each other's back. And we've been at times where we're the only two standing. Um, and except for a short period right after the museum, we've pretty much been on course working together. We like working together. Um, and so, but not legally. We're not legally brothers. I mean, I'm 4 months older than him actually. Um, but people saw us looking alike, our energies vibed, and all of those things. That it became easier to do that, and we became it in our spirit, in our souls, and we made oaths to take care of each other. So it's been an equal race, an equal moment. So when he kind of retired from the tradition, it became a little bit about the idea of what am I going to do next. Um, and we were actually talking about that even before Don's heart attack, because he was starting to show some real signs of wear. Um, that we wanted to, after the Parliament of World Religions, one of the most important events of the year. You're going to find out so many fantastic things. And if you buy a ticket August 19th, that's one of the things we're doing on Pagan World. Yes, am I mentioning things? Yes, of course. Um, He's going to give a great speech. I have no doubt he's going to absorb all that energy at the Parliament. Lord Don, Byron Ballard too. I have others who are going to do that. Going to gather up all that energy, and then they're going to spit it out at all of you who are going to watch virtually on the 19th. But the thing about an oath is that if you break an oath, you're not supposed to be ever trusted again. And I think that's a very important factor. A lot of our religious movements swear to an oath. I took a Gardnerian oath not to reveal a lot of their secrets under the threat of death itself. I had a sword, and we don't now know this publicly, so I don't have to really mention that one of the things is to have a sword at your throat when you're pledging to allow this group to say, yeah, we're gonna keep these secrets, and if you end them, if you share them, um, you will die. This is Gardnerian. Corellians don't have that strict a rule. Um, thank goodness. Uh, but it is this idea of having a commitment that basically sets your life in a certain direction. So I also talk about a pledge to the gods and to those who serve them. And that came really strong. I mean, I've had it for a while. This Paladin's been around. But in 2018, the Voces came in. It was a very strong vision. And I swore as a Paladin that I would follow the Voces, that I would help the Voces out. Now, we're not always sure of exactly who all the Voces are out, but there are a lot of them out there. And some of them we follow, and some of them we've rejected as paladins, but we are out to do so. But I probably serve as gods. And I'm developing a new concept of paladinhood, I'm going to be a new concept of guardianship. I think that will emerge. I think that a lot of what I've created in the past has been cool. I like it. I like it a lot. But I also think that we're seeing much more of things that are going to be changing very fast. And so this is where your oath is, where you know your commitment to it, to each other. Um, how do you build these things, and how do you build trust? Trust is one of the hardest things in the world to build, and it's the easiest thing to shatter. And that's where your oath comes in. Your oath is how much you can be believed, and nobody has to know about your oath. They don't, but they can see it through your actions of if you're going to stand by them or not. And if you don't, the gods or whomever you made these oaths to will notice it. For some, they made it to the gods. I made it to the Corellian family too, and they noticed it. They noticed when things were being disturbed in that world, and you know that there was energy out there that is like weird and hard. And so I served that. I continue to do so. I will continue to do so for a very long time, until I take my last breath. And then what do you do in your next life? So the other thing we have is kind of a commitment to the next life. One of the things that I like about the Corellian tradition is this concept of eternity, infinity, immortality. The idea that we are not just remembered. I came from, remember, a very Christian background where only a tiny, insignificant amount of humans were actually going to survive to go to heaven, and all the others would be falling down to hell. And the only thing we had to do to get to heaven was sacrifice Earth. Armageddon is a crime. It's a hate crime. It's a global crime. It's a tremendously hostile crime. The idea of revelations, the idea of Armageddon, end of the world, and people have made a pledge to fight in that war. Every year, we have literally hundreds of millions of people who will, by their very vaccination, say they will fight in a genocidal war to protect their God, and it's in more than one religion. So, really, one of the biggest things we have is the idea of these God battles. And that's where oaths are kind of important because we've dedicated our souls. The mortgage on it, we play with that. Who owns your soul? If it's all a collective part of being part of the one, then nobody owns it because we all own each other because we kind of own that sort of thing. If there's more individualization and gods are more individualized, who owns my soul? I believe I own my soul, but I was born Christian with the idea that my soul was mortgaged, that my soul had the wages of sin weigh upon it at my birth. and that I needed to make an oath to love Jesus Christ or any other number of religious things. I needed to bow olives. Depends what country you're born in. Swedenborg's and was mine. My great grandfather was a Swedenborg, and my grandfather absorbed a lot of it, though he served as a good Catholic because of what? My grandmother. That's right. And she dragged me off to church. And so I made a commitment to, but I felt it was a false commitment to being baptized, that I was going to be baptized in Christ. And I did baptize in Christ. Had my communion in Catholic Church a week later. What a mind changer. And so I was committed there. But real oaths, those are societal oaths. They try to hold us into these positions with them. These are societal oaths, so you make them, but there's no magic behind them, no energy behind them. So when you put your energy and you really know it, I mean, cutting your hands and making a blood brother bond with somebody, right? That been done that. We've done that. I mean, a lot of us have done that. That's a really heavy oath. And when those relationships are broken, they have a heavy, heavy weight on us all. And when they continue, you can see throughout history, those relationships can be, last a long time. And in fact, change the world. So, what can change your world? What is it that you need to have? What have you made an oath to? And what does that mean to you? That's important. So for me, my oath to serve as a pagan is make sure I connect pagans. What is my life's goal? Connecting pagans, doing what I am today. You're all connecting with me, and I'm connecting with you. Pagan World TV is another connector, and we are going to have other projects out there. We're going to have more radio. We're going to have a lot of different ideas. But what's the purpose of it? Well, my life goal is connecting pagans so that we can find a way to have a voice in the world. Yes, ooh, I like that fact. Um, a voice in the world. So there's it. Why am I working with Don? Because getting him home, because that's my oath. Why do I work with the Voces? Well, whatever I can, which is the voice of the gods. And what I literally mean, people who I believe, have actually communicated and channeled the gods themselves so that we can answer to them. Because it's hard to serve a God, but their channels and their conduits are a lot easier to identify and to serve. And we add them, the paladins have them. And sometimes people say, no, we don't want your assistance, or no, I don't want your help. And then we move on from there, letting the gods take their child and may move them elsewhere. But we serve a lot of them. We have, so these Voces, which are the voices of the gods, can summon onto the paladins, can talk to me or to other paladins about trying to make their life easier. Connecting pagans is why I will be pagan to my breath, because ultimately, for me, what is that oath grounded? And this is it for me. I do believe that Armageddon is a crime. I think Revelations is a brainwashing technique that will someday lead us into a war. And it's led us into past wars, a number of them. And I think it's going to lead us into a future war. So I took an oath to stop that. And the only way that I could do that was to give and discover an emotional energy and start to teach people it's not bad to have a continuous civilization, that it's not bad to continue all of this. We're not sinful. We're not evil. We're good. So my oath was that we're good people. And the best people I found in the world were pagans. I mean, there were other great people, but for me, the lack of orthodoxy, that belief, theogenesis of Oberon Zels really kind of turned my head. I became quite a disciple of his after that. I study everything he puts out. Um, but theogenesis is like the core for me. And that means life continues. And I'm just, guess what? A process. I have grandchildren now, I have children, and hopefully their children will continue on. And we have a process of moving forward. So I don't want to see the world burn in some sort of Armageddon apocalyptic war. I want us to have the apocalypse, which is the unveiling of the world, but not Armageddon. So I spent my life improving pagans, getting them to be much more global leaders. Yes, global leaders. Not just local leaders, but national and global leadership as well, because we need to have as many voices as we can. So by connecting pagans wherever they're at to get to more resources, to get to each other, has really helped me out a lot. And that's what I do. And that's what I've been doing. And that's where my oaths are. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, the idea of what are oaths and where my oaths lie. Connecting pagans is where I sit, and serving the Corellian family is another place. I'm a gardenerian at another that I appreciate, but I don't necessarily work with as much. But I do help out those community members. I love helping all sorts of community, and that's it. I want to connect pagans because I think that's the best way to do so. But at the end of my life, if you, I plan to die pagan. I want to be burned pagan. I maybe turned into a rock. I've talked about a lot of weird things to do with my body after death. I want to make it maybe like Catholic, pagan relics where I have bones and blood and different organizations, or maybe Ferengi style where they take and either freeze dry me, hopefully freeze dry because it'd be more a little tech, or have little vases full of ashes, and have all of those sent out to all the pagan Corellian temples throughout the world. That would be really cool. And then my family would keep a small amount of them. But people, send them out to all of it. I would love to have the end of my life be kind of deconstructed, and that everything about me gets sent out to the temples for for some sort of strange energy. But that would show my dedication to it than sticking me in a hole somewhere or just burning me and putting it in a vase somewhere. Because that way people will remember, oh, what's that vase 50 years from now, 100 years from now? Oh, that is the flesh and blood. Oh, yeah, I plan to impact eternity, Mary. See, there it is. So why would I not do that? And then they would have it there. Oh, this is that energy, that crystal to the crystal web combined with the ashes, or maybe freeze dried flesh, or blood, or whatever it is they take, right? And send it out to all the temples. They will then remember me. And how long would those last? Yeah. Dedication to my oath. Isn't that something? Uh, but yeah, I do think that we want to be there. So let me go ahead and close this for the night. I think this has been a better Monday speech than I've been having. I've been cursed the last couple of weeks with really poor ones. I think this is a much better one. Um, but oaths, take them seriously. Start to look at what they are, and then make oaths light. Rarely and light. Make sure that you do not do something that you will regret later by just being overly emotional. On the other hand, promises are there too, and you want to keep promises, though they don't live to the level of oaths. Um, I do promise that I will help as best I can, but you can't go beyond that. So be careful of when you make your promise, which is not the same as an oath, but it is, and that of oath. Samantha, do you recommend any, you know, homework I recommend do? I never have recommended homework. Oh my God, I was such a bad student. Why would I ever assign homework? But what I think you're really asking, what's your next step? Well, if you want to talk about the world of oaths and promises and initiations, all of that, you have to really work on yourself. And you want a real simple answer. What would you, what would you die for? Name three things you'd die for. Huh? Um, oh, good. There's a lot of places. Witch School has a lot of homework um, out there. Uh, but also, then you have to ask yourself, what would you live for? Let's say you have something happens to you. What would you live for? What are you willing to live, even if you were, say, physically damaged, lost a limb, had a heart attack, um, whatever it is it has been, become homeless, whatever it is that has become disastrous, what do you have to live for? What would you live for? So for me, I right now have changed it. Remember, I have not been historically a live for guy. I'm going to die, but I've not been a live for. And when that was the question asked to me, what would I live for? I can tell you, I'd live for my daughter, my son, my grandchildren. I would live for them. That's harder. They want me there because they don't want me all the time. I mean, they can't pay for my living. They can't pay for my life. They can't do any of that, and they're not supposed to. I'm supposed to make my way in the world, but to continue to live, I need to, that's something that I have to then do great things. So what do you want to live for? Give yourself three things you'd be willing to die for, but what are you going to live for? So in my pledge of being Ed the Pagan, I want to become much better known, and I want to connect more pagans, and I've got some ideas on how to do that. My oath of Corellianism is I want to be buried as a Corellian. I want to be buried in with Corellian priests, and my family's already accommodating this. And of course, then have me kind of divided up somehow. Shh, we will figure that one out. Um, and my oath to the gods is that when I can add help and help people, even of all these different traditions, I do it. So, what are your three things that you're willing to live for, and what are you willing to die for? And are they the same thing? Are you willing to die for something, but are you willing to live for it? Dying is easy, living is hard. At least at this part of the game in our spiritual evolution and the world walking and all of that. So there you go, folks. Um, we'll be back tomorrow night where we're going to talk with Erica Bear. And you're going to download a font. You get you a chance to download a font. He's going to explain how to do that of the Corellian script and how to utilize it in so many different magical ways. Knowledge, magic life, the gods and goddesses put me on earth and my cousin. But what do they put you on earth for? What is the specific thing that you can fix? Hmm? Right? I mean, we're here, but what is it that you can get there? What's your North Star? What is it that you're willing just to work for to make your life happy or other people's lives happy? What is it that's going to bring you joy? That's the real question. And I think we should all do it. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Mary. And thank you, Samantha. And blessed be.